when I call, because it's better when I'm on the phone, it says the meeting is full. So if I needed to call in, I won't be able to.
Okay.
Bummer.
Let's hope that things work out well. But let's get into it. Welcome everybody to our native plant class. Today we're going to be sharing details about the benefits of native plants, also some planting instructions to help you get started, some of our favorite plants, and some designs, and a little special gift that we'll be sharing out with the attendees today. Let me pull up our PowerPoint so we can get started. So, landscaping with native plants. Welcome everybody. And I'm going to be the host, Akela Karamoko, and I'll be also paying attention to the chat and making sure that your questions are heard and share it with the panelists. So be patient with me as I get that all organized. All right, today we are going to be hearing from me, your host. I'm a farmer at Keep Growing Detroit, and I'm responsible for growing the native plants that are going to be shared with you all today. Ujiji, she's a landscape architect, and she has worked with us before on our Beautiful Borders project, and she's back again to help assist us with the designs. And if Ujiji can, well, she might be having some connection issues, so she might be joining us throughout the PowerPoint as it's going. And then we have Irma, a rain garden advocate. She's done a lot of work all over the city, helping with improving rainwater retention, and she's also one of our designers of one of the gardens. And then we have Lois. She's a superstar community member and a longtime gardener, and she's one of our other designers. And this class would not be possible without our partners. So we have Tiffany here with the National Wildlife Federation, and if she could share some details about their group, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. Good afternoon, everyone. I work for the National Wildlife Federation out of the Great Lakes Regional Center. My role is the Habitat Education Coordinator. Great to have everybody on this Saturday. Just to give you a little bit of breadth of what National Wildlife Federation is all about. It's a conservation organization. It's been around for 83 years, 8 regional centers across the country, and our particular region is all about focusing on protecting and restoring the Great Lakes that we treasure and love. Our habitat kind of work in Detroit is Sacred Grounds, which is linking faith practices to earth stewardship practices within houses of worship, as well as our DLEAP program, which stands for Detroit Leadership Environmental Education Program. So those are our 2 programs in Detroit, but we do all things of stopping Asian carp, working with our Healing Our Waters Coalition, which is a 150 organization cohort coalition working to restore our Great Lakes, along with our habitat education programming. So I'm so glad to be here. So glad to be a part of the partners and these amazing panelists this afternoon. So thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany. And our other partner is Land and Waterworks Coalition. I want to give a huge shout outs to them. I don't know if we have Nicole, or if you want to say a little bit more about the Land and Waterworks, now's the time.
Hi, thank you so very much. So my name is Nicole Brown. I'm the Senior Program Manager for Land and Waterworks with Detroit Future City, and we are so excited to be able to partner with Keep Growing Detroit and with Tiffany to be able to bring this program to you all. It is our mission as a 10-member coalition to ensure that we are partnering with Detroit residents and other stakeholders in Detroit to be able to, 1, educate all of our citizens about our important water infrastructure, but also beyond that, really looking at how do we invest and create stewards of green stormwater infrastructure, as well as looking at how those interventions can help stop harmful combined sewage overflows. And so we're so happy to be able to be a partner for for today's workshop.
All right, thank you, Nicole. And last is, well, us, Keep Growing Detroit. Well, I guess me in this one. Keep Growing Detroit, we're an advocate for helping the city become a food sovereign city. And for us, that means that we want 50% of the food eaten here to also be grown here. And so the programs that we run are all related to accomplishing that goal. And And native plants play a huge role in accomplishing a food sovereign city because of the benefits we'll be speaking about in this presentation. All right, with the introductions out of the way, what are native plants? Native plants are plants indigenous to the area in the geological time. By being indigenous to an area, they have adapted and evolved with the environment in order to survive, and thus a host of benefits come with that, and keeping native plants, pardon me, and thus the host of benefits come with keeping native plants within your garden. And we're going to be going through the major benefits of that, starting with preventing soil erosion. And so if you look in this picture here, you can see a host of native plants and their names below. And then on the left-hand side, you can see Kentucky bluegrass, which is a typical turf grass. And if you compare the roots of each of these plants, you can definitely see some drastic differences. So compared to the typical turf grass that are planted in many lawns, native plants have dynamic and deep penetrating roots that improve the soil structure. And one of the qualities of pardon me, one of the qualities that native plant improves on in the soil is its ability to resist soil erosion. The roots of native plants spread and grab hold of soil all around it, anchoring them together. This also means that the soil's ability to hold water and also the plant's ability to resist drought is improved as well. And so we're going to pass it to Irma to talk about stormwater management and recharging groundwater.
Thank you, Akela. One of the things I did fail to mention in the intro was, or didn't think to ask, is that I work with the Healing Our Waters Great Lakes Coalition. And it's a coalition of 160 organizations throughout the 8 Great Lakes states. And our primary overarching goal is to, for federal policy that supports the restoration and protection of our Great Lakes watershed. And so what that means and how that relates to how native plants manage stormwater and recharge groundwater is pretty basic. It's that, by using stormwater when it's excessive, like in the large rainstorm that we had yesterday, I'm pretty sure that amount of rain in such a short time caused what we call combined sewer overflows. So in Detroit, we have a combined sewer system where where both stormwater and sewage are in the same pipe that lead to the wastewater treatment plant. So when heavy rains like yesterday, when it exceeds the capacity of the treatment facility, then the excess overflows into the Detroit and Rouge River. And on the next slide, you'll see a picture. Next, okay, he's reading text. Okay, so here's a picture of the overflow or outfalls rather along the Detroit River. That's the bottom section. And then on the left side, that's the Rouge River. And these are pictures to the left of the map are pictures of where the water and sewage, and this is partially treated sewage as well as raw sewage combined with the stormwater overflow into our rivers. And so sewage in the water is not a good thing. And so that's why when we are planting with native plants, it is an excellent way of managing the stormwater where it falls, keeping it out of our combined sewer system, right? So we're reducing that volume, which thereby will help to reduce the amount of overflows. So this is a really key and important thing. Now, Michigan being the Great Lakes state, pardon me, we don't have a significant problem with groundwater scarcity, like some states that you hear about where people say, oh, the aquifer, the Ogallala, I'm not pronouncing that right. There's an aquifer out west that is constantly under threat because those states have to use that groundwater as their source of drinking water. But here in Detroit, our source of drinking water is the Detroit River and the Huron River. We don't need to tap into groundwater as our drinking water source. And so recharging groundwater is important. It's not as significant here, but it is certainly better than, you know, we're recharging and keeping it at a healthy level. So there's a lot more to that, you know, like places that are draining from the groundwater, they face something called the threat of subsidence, which is basically the ground is sinking because the water underneath it is so low that it's not supporting the land above. So it gets complicated, but we're very fortunate here. We have the Great Lakes, we have a significant amount of water, but we do want to keep it out of the storm drain. So we appreciate your interest and wanting to plant native plants to help us as a natural way of managing stormwater. On the next slide, you'll see another high motivator is that when we do have these discharges and we're putting sewage into the rivers, then the Detroit River and both the Rouge, they flow into Lake Erie. You know, it's our smallest but most productive Great Lake. And Lake Erie has had a problem with this green muck, which they call, it's a toxic algal bloom that is it covers the entire western basin of Lake Erie. And this results when you have sewage and the nutrients, phosphorus and nitrogen that come from that sewage overflowing into our waterways. So it's they're beautiful, and we'll hear more about that. The native plants are beautiful. They help with erosion. There are all those benefits, but we're also helping to protect our significant water resources here in the Great Lakes.
Right. And another benefit that we're going to share is how native plants beautify our neighborhoods. We're going to pass it to Lois.
Hello, how's everyone? And in Brown, I didn't realize that was Nicole Brown. It's good to hear from you, Nicole. My rain garden not only attracts pollinators, but it attracts community. I consider myself a community organizer, specifically in District 3, because it seems like District 3 needs a lot of help, and that's why I'm here. I have a community garden, a Firewell community garden, and we have a beautiful berm with a lot of native flowers in it. My rain garden not only attracts pollinators, but people in the community. I have people coming all over, and not just District 3, all around to see my lovely garden. I like that shock factor because people will ride down my street and say, oh, look at that garden. It's right in the center of the neighborhood. It's beautiful, and it is. You guys got to see it. My neighbors are always excited about seeing them populate, seeing them growing. And the most beautiful thing about my rain garden is my monarch butterflies. I have all different colors that come. I have yellow finch and black finches, the little birds that fly around. And it's just an awesome thing to do. It's a beautiful conversation piece, and it's good for all kinds of animals. And not so favorite bees. I mean, I know we need bees. Bees are excitable too. I have all kinds of bees going around. The children are having so much fun with them. And I'm just excited about this landscaping project because I want to put another one in the back. And I guess we'll talk about that more. But in my neighborhood, what we're trying to do is get a group of people to come together and design, or not really design, but put rain gardens to help the water flow, to help the community. And you know, I was surprised we still had people that did not have their drainage going out of the driveway, but into the ground. So we're working on that, and we're doing a fantastic job. I have some wonderful new neighbors that have moved in, and they're excited about what we're trying to do to make the neighborhood beautiful. But they are gorgeous, gorgeous. I love them. I get excited every time I talk about it.
All right, thank you, Lois. And we have a question from our attendees. Question is, where are our personal rain gardens located?
Mine is, I'm on Binder Street, and I'm glad I cleaned it up before I opened my big mouth to talk about how beautiful my garden is. But I'm on the northeast end, I'm on the Outer Drive in the Ryan area, 19992 Binder. But when you come down Binder, you'll see it, believe me, you'll see it, because not only do I have the rain garden, I have flowers everywhere. And no, it doesn't look like a jungle. Somebody told me it looked like a jungle, but it really doesn't. It's just beautiful.
And you, Irma? Oh,
So
you are
I've planted two in North Rosedale Park Community House. There's actually three there, but the two that I put in with help are right at the community house. One is sort of behind it, close to where the new plaza is, and the other one accepts runoff from the parking lot. So one is accepting runoff from a disconnected downspout coming off the roof of the building. And again, the other one takes runoff from the other two take runoff from parking lot.
And Keep Growing Detroit's rain garden is located at our farm on 1855 Erkin Street in the Eastern Market District. All right, let's talk about the benefits that native plants have to attract beneficials.
Yeah, so native plants, and Alois touched on this, native plants are one of their, well, I mean, all the benefits are awesome. There's kind of like no downside to a native plant, but the fact that they are habitat for so many beneficial birds and insects is just really impressive. So Alois mentioned and showed you pictures of her monarch butterflies that visit. I've seen the swallowtail butterfly at rain gardens. Hummingbirds are attracted to tubular flowers like bee balm and columbine and the foxgloves, all of which are native plants. The swamp milkweed is the larval host for the monarch butterfly that Alois mentioned. The bees, I believe, also are great for the bee balm, and as well as the echinacea. So it's rare to go to a native plant garden and not see some sort of beneficial insect, and it is magical to really watch them. But pollinators are vital to production of agriculture, and Kalo mentioned with Keep Growing Detroit the phenomenal work that they're doing along urban agriculture, urban farms and gardens. And so for them to be successful, right, then 30% or so of foods require pollinators. And so they're key to they're key to growth of food, and consequently they're key to our survival, right? Because we have to have the food to eat. So having habitat, is essential. And these, oh, look at that beautiful hummingbird. And because of the wide use of harmful insecticides, many pollinators are endangered. We hear about the bee failures and the bee colony failure, that kind of thing. Those are real. And so what we're doing, because it's no need to put any, and Alois can verify this, we don't put any kind of insecticide or herbicide or fertilizer, any of that. None of that's necessary in our native plants. So these are very healthy plants, and therefore healthy for the pollinators, and again, healthy for our sake as well. There are also native plants that we can put in if you are so fortunate to live along a water body. So along a riparian area, so along like a stream bank, putting native plants there, as we know, not only help with erosion control, as Kalo mentioned, but also they provide habitat along that aquatic border, along that riparian. There's habitat for the insects and such in the stream banks, and that's also good for fish. It's the the little fish eat the plant, the little insects that are growing in this habitat, and then the bigger fish eat the little fish, etc. And so again, essential for our survival even, and the food chain, the food web. So a lot of benefits.
Sorry about that. Having some technical difficulties. And so some of the native plants that you all will be receiving through our gift, and also plants that are going to be available at a Keep Growing Detroit store, which will be linked in this presentation. I just want to share some of them that we'll be sharing out, and some of our favorites. So I also had a question for the chat, if they could guess or tell me which plant this is right here that the hummingbird is feeding on, just to keep it a little interesting. And so, and you can just post that in the chat. And so some of our plants that we'll be growing out this year, I think we believe we are growing out a total of 26 varieties, well, 26 species of native plants this year. And some of them include asters, at the top of our list here, asters, great blue lobelia. I believe this right here is little blue stream, if I'm practicing my identification with native plants. Then we have coreopsis in the middle on the left side, butterfly milkweed in the middle, columbine on the right of the middle, and then below we have cardinal flower, purple love grass, and then on the bottom right we have hairy foxbeard tongue. I believe I'm saying that in the wrong order. Foxbeard tongue, pardon me. And so just to highlight some of our favorites, the butterfly milkweed, which is featured in Lewis's design, is one of my personal favorite milkweeds. It has a beautiful orange flower, which, you know, is kind of rare in nature, and especially in some gardens. And it doesn't have a milky sap, so when you're handling it, it doesn't really get too messy. And it also attracts pollinators like monarchs, bees, and such. Coreopsis, it's a super dependable plant. It reseeds heavily, and also it's drought tolerant, so its roots penetrate deep down, and it can deal with going without water for a long time. And also, if you're into like cut flowers, it's an excellent yellow plant, small little plant to add. And a little tip, if you have this in your garden already, or if you plan on getting it, you can get a second bloom by simply pruning off the finished flowers on it. And so it really likes to reseed and flower. And great blue lobelia, again, rare colors within gardens, are blue plants. And I'll get to the chat in a moment, so be patient with me. It's a blue flower, and so that's really special to have inside of your garden. And it also likes water a lot, and it attracts hummingbirds like that red plant, which I'll reveal is cardinal flower. That was my question. It's in the same family as cardinal flowers. And it's also a deer and rabbit resistant. So if you plant this around your garden and deers or rabbits eat that, it causes them indigestion, and so they will learn to stay away from this plant and hopefully stay away from the rest of your garden too. And then swamp rose mallow. This soil does excellently in wet soils, and it has a huge, large pink and white flower, which is really stands out within a garden. And it's one of our tallest native plants that we have available. And so I'm gonna keep going, and then I'll go to the chat and answer some of the questions in there. So our landscape architect, she's helped us take Lois's and Irma's ideas and put them into designs that are shareable to you all, and I'll be posting that into the chat once I'm finished with this spiel. Some of the things that she's taken into consideration, along with ideas from Lois and Irma, and synthesizing those, she's taken into consideration the size of the plants, the slope of the land, the soil type that those plants like, and any modifications that are important to to get those plants started off well. And so we're gonna hop into our designs that we were able to come up with for this class. And so our first one is our Part Sun Designs, which is designed by Irma. So Irma, if you could share your inspirations for designs and yeah, so I'm gonna hand it off and I'm gonna get to the chat while I'm on mute.
All right. This was just a lot of fun. I was really pleased and happy, thankful that I had been invited to create a design for this webinar, for this project. So this is my granny's lakeside cottage garden. That's what I'm calling it. And I'll be honest, it's kind of really hard to pick, but because they're all quite lovely, but they do have distinct characteristics. So in designing it, I looked at their height. That was kind of really important to me. Because I wanted to have some type of symmetry in the garden. So I wanted I picked taller ones for the back. It was also important to look at spacing, because I've noticed in some of the gardens I've done previously, I didn't pay quite as much attention to that. So you end up with some that are, big clumps and then some empty spaces. So you want to be aware of the spacing that's required and use that as a guide. I think kind of as a rule of thumb, maybe a foot apart, but some require 18 feet apart or more. So the spacing is really significant. And then the color. And Lois has talked about, the beautiful colors. And so those were the things that went into my design. And I named it after my granny because she absolutely, loved gardening.
Looks like we might have lost Lois here. What we'll do, we'll continue on and we'll hop into talking with Lois about her garden. And then once Irma reconnects, we'll return to her in her spiel, okay? So bear with us for a bit, everybody. All right. So Lois, she's designed our...
Can you hear me now?
Oh, Lois is back. Irma's back.
Yeah, so I'll just wrap it up. So the colors were important, the height, and also what pollinators it would attract. Those were things important that motivated me.
All right, thank you. And and could you share a little bit about your second design too, and how you about that one?
Okay, so the next one I call Corinne's Waterfront Retreat. So I have this thing about the lakes and the water and the river. I am absolutely a water baby, and love to fish and all that. So the next one is the slide. Pull that one up. So you'll see in my granny's one, it's got about 20, 30 plants. The next one, the Corinne's, the next design, I selected, it was 15 plants. And as Akelo mentioned, do you have a picture of the smaller one, Akelo?
Yep, I can go back.
Yeah, go back. Oh, what did I do? I went backwards. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that a lot of these plants reseed themselves. Like the black-eyed Susan, you can plant it one place and it's going to expand, right, Alois?
Yes, yes.
That black-eyed Susan, and it's beautiful. It's this beautiful bright yellow. And then I just learned from Akelo about coreopsis, which I absolutely love, and the bees love coreopsis too. And now I know that I could reseed it, and there are other ones that can be reseeded. So you don't need to have them they're little when you get them, but you don't have to have them absolutely so close together because they are going to fan out and reseed and grow. So, but yeah, I just, so you kind of can't go wrong. And there's always this option as we create a community of gardeners here in Southeast Michigan, Detroit, Southeast Michigan, of native plant gardens. Right now, before Keep Growing Detroit started this, to get a native plant, you had to go almost to Lansing, you know, to get them. And so I'm really proud of the work that they're doing, and that this community that we're building. Somebody just wrote, that's it, Rondo Bay. Yeah, that's where my granny's place was. My grandparents' place was in Rondo Bay, Canada. Anyway, you know, we'll be able to share and purchase and learn more about it. We should just have this big gardening club all around native plants.
All right. And one thing I do want to share, orange coneflower is just another name for black-eyed Susans. Let's hear some from
Can I answer this question, Caleb?
yes. Yeah.
And for me, these are all rain gardens. For me, I mean, they're landscaping with native plants, but for me, they're all about, I will disconnect downspouts or find some way to capture stormwater. So yes, they're all ideal as rain gardens.
All right. Lois, if you could share your inspirations for your full sun design, please.
Okay, I want to do something different as far as design, because I have the cone, I have the kidney shape in my front yard, and you know, and I think that's beautiful. But I wanted to do something on the off side of another part of my yard or in the back. So I chose this rectangle. I had my husband go out and measure. He said, "What are you gonna put in the back now?" But my garden, I wanted to get that shot factor. I wanted the wild strawberries. I think I have them down. Do I have wild straw? Yeah, wild strawberries. I put them around the sides because it's an introduction to spring to me. I like to come home and look down and say, oh, the flowers are getting ready to bloom. And what I did, not so much as Irma. Irma is so talented. I didn't go by the height of the flower. Again, I like that shot factor. I like to see flowers jump out of other flowers and peep out and look at everybody else. But I did the same way with the swamp mellow. I think that is so beautiful. As a matter of fact, I didn't realize I had some of that on the side of my gate too, by my garage. And the purple cone flowers, they are gorgeous. I wish I had did one section of my garden, nothing but cone flowers, because of the attraction to the bees and to the animals. I just love it. Now the butterfly milkweed, that is such a beautiful color. And from what I understand, I don't know if it changes color or you can get it in different colors, but oh, that orange is so gorgeous to me. I trimmed my purple cone flowers. I encased it around my milkweed and my strawberries to get that dramatic effect. The height to me is very important too, because you know, people can ride down the street and they say, what is that in her yard? And they can see the beautiful radiance of the flower. I want to be able to do some more exciting things with different designs. And I wanted to contain my triangle shape to the garden because I thought it was something different. The city came in and cut down some trees, quite a few trees. And I love nature, so I took the branches and the bottom of some of the trees, and I made a border to encase it so I can still keep that effect without putting the gate like I did in my rain garden in the front. And now I have my flowers peeping out of my fence, and it looks like they're begging for help. But I put, and if you don't like the tree effect, you can also, I have lighting in between in my rain gardens too. So at night it illuminates. It has that illuminating power to it. It brightens up. So by choice, my rain garden is lit up day and night. But I love it. I'm excited about the rain garden concept. And Irma, that's a good idea. We should have a club so we can get together and think about the different things and the beautiful things that we can do with our rain gardens. And if you don't like the branches, I use stones. I like to use natural things in the garden. Since I have native plants, I want to make sure I have natural things in my garden. But I hope you like that triangle shape. It was different, but I want to retain it. And I think the branches sets it off very well. Hello. Thank you for the
All right,
great
well,
ideas.
thank you.
You wait.
Right. So I want to pose this question to our designers. There's a lot of inspiration and also within the names of you all's gardens that you put for them. Maybe there's a little bit more to be shared. Who taught you how to love nature or gardening and what will your gardening legacy be?
Who are we talking? Oh, yeah, of course, it's me. Okay. My mother did. My mother is, she's from the South, and she used to pick cotton. She would swear, I'll never pick cotton. I don't want to go into the garden, but she loved flowers, and she loves animals. She had got sick, and there was a vacant lot around, next door. So when I first got involved with Keep Growing Detroit, our group some of my friends and family got together, and we got the vacant lot prepared for my mom's garden because she wasn't able to walk. So she could actually go out, look out the window and see the beautiful flowers. But she didn't live that long after that. So what I did, I made it a point, and she loved purple. I made it a point to put purple in everything I do and everything I did, and really everything I wear. And she's such a nature nut. She used to feed squirrels on the porch and birds. We would get there and pigeons were all over her porch. And my legacy would be to pass this on to my children and be able to have people enjoy the garden as much as I did. I worked in commercial, worked for the Board of Education, and I never thought that I would be so excited about plants and loving plants. And that's all I do all the time now since I've retired. But that legacy is something, you can't not pass that kind of legacy off to anybody and see how beautiful and how relaxing and calming it is. The end.
Thank you, Lois. Irma, if you could share too.
Yeah, absolutely. My mother and my grandmother both really loved gardening. My mom had a huge garden. And I tell people I didn't know you had to wash. I would go out and just pick a green bean and eat it. I still love vegetables, straight from the plant. And my mom had beautiful rose bushes as well and flowers all along anyway, yeah, beautiful. And just the peace you feel when you're outside. And my grandmother's lakeside, it was actually a stream. In Shrewsbury, Ontario, Canada. Somebody wrote it in the chat, in Rondo Bay, which is an outlet of Lake Erie. Spent every summer there, most of my childhood. I can still smell the fresh air. I can still sense it. And those beautiful breezes off the water. But, and then so you get this perfect whiff of the flowers, and she's, got her hat on and down there, and I'm playing in the dirt right with my grandma, my granny, So I'll tell you, I got started I work for Sierra Club. I got started with this work because I heard, once again, you saw the pictures of Lake Erie and the harmful algal blooms. And I can't stand the thought, right, that this place I grew up in Shrewsbury on the bay, on Lake Erie, is now being harmed by a toxic substance. It's choking the life out of the lake. I like to fish, and it is against my best memories. And now the fish are all being pushed and choked because their oxygen is depleted in the lake. They're being pushed to the central basin. So this is fun, and it's heartwarming, and it's a joy, and it gives you great pleasure. But we're also doing a really significant environmental thing here. and even economics, you know, the fisheries in Lake Erie are extremely valuable. It's $1 billion industry. So, you know, people's livelihoods and, you know, and I bet everyone on this call eats fish, right? So this is our food source. So, you know, this is thank you again for your interest in doing this and in doing something that's going to beautify your home and your neighborhood, but also serve this significant environmental benefit. Thanks, Granny.
Thank you all. And now we're going to get into the portion of planting and maintenance tips where we're getting a lot of questions from our chat about that, but we're definitely not going to leave this out for you all. So we're going to bring in Ujiji, our landscape architect, to help lead the discussion on planting and maintenance tips. And we'll also hear from Irma and Lois to get some of their shared experience about getting native plants started and taking care of them.
Great. Thank you, Akello. As Akello said, I am Ujiji Davis. I am a landscape architect. So I've been very happy to work with Irma and Alois on bringing their ideas and their expertise to a deliverable state. It's really great to learn from a lot of people that have been in this space for a long time. So I'm just going to kind of give some key pointers to how we can best prep some of our landscapes to embrace these native qualities, and just kind of some tips and pointers for long-term maintenance. So first is bed preparation. That is just kind of traditional site cleanup to start. So once you identify where you want your native garden to go, whether that's for full sun or partial shade, it's really important to start to kind of dig up and loosen up the soil. So we have a lot of clay soil here in Detroit, and that has a lot to do with development and compaction. And so why that's important is when water cannot properly drain all the way down, it kind of sits right at the surface. And that's why a lot of us have a lot of issues with flooding in our basements, or just kind of sheets of water going into the sidewalk. And after a rainfall, the sidewalks and the streets seem really dirty because it's carrying a lot of the surface soil and dirt with it. So when you have decided your location for your native plant area, it's really important to kind of till the soil, if you will, just kind of dig it up, get rid of the grass, get rid of existing weeds, get rid of plants that you don't want there anymore, and really start to aerate the soil, which really means to bring air and oxygen into the soil. And what you're doing is you're helping to create space in the soil so that water has a place to go, and the place that we want it to go is underneath the roots, so that the plants that we're planting have all the food and beverage they can possibly ask for. So that is probably step one. And when you start to do this, you can also see what type of soil you have. So if you have soil that clumps when you kind of squish it and it kind of starts to make a ball, you know that you have clay soil, which means you probably need to have a little bit more air for drainage. Or if you have soil that doesn't clump very well, you probably have something that's more sandy, which is a little bit more ideal for water drainage, but there are some issues sometimes with stability. You might not be able to berm up and do a lot of funky things with sandy soil. So oftentimes we really like to see a mix where you kind of clump just enough, but not enough to make a ball. And so there's a lot of that here in Detroit, so it shouldn't be an issue of looking for too much additional soil. Next slide for me.
And I wanted to bring in Lois's question. Well, I want to ask Irma, are there special preparations that she does during her rainwater garden plantings, bed prep, and then I'll go to the next slide for you.
Yeah, so as Ms. Davis stated, we have a lot of clay soil, and so it's rare to find a spot where it's nice, so sand, what is it, sandy soil, where the water infiltrates nicely into the ground. So we put in compost and sharp sand. We do I think it's 2/3 compost, 1/3 sharp sand combination, to modify, to amend that clay soil. So you dig out, you know, some portion of the clay and put in the compost and sharp sand, and now you've got a great start, great soil mixture to start your growing of the natives. What is sharp sand? I can't, I don't know. It's just sandy kind of sand. Probably Miss Davis would know better than me, but or someone on the call else on here. But it's what you might call the rain garden kind of mix. Yeah. So
Yeah, I would agree with you. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna move to the next slide for us. Thank you, Irma.
So some overall planting tips really is when you start to think about where you want your garden to go. One of the beautiful things about Miss Irma and Miss Alois's planting designs is that it's really fitting for any kind of location across, especially a home, but specifically with full sun areas and partial shade areas. And what that means is full sun are areas where the sun is shining for maybe 6 or more hours during the day. And partial sun is maybe where it's not as much sun, but also there might be some active shade. Maybe you have some trees that are over your property and you want to put a garden close to the tree. So that part of the garden would benefit from a shady environment. So it's really important to make sure that you have those elements identified ahead of time, because you don't want to put a partial shade plant in a full sun area. It will not survive. So a lot of the plants and the designs that Ms. Irma and Ms. Alois have developed are specific for that. And so in ahead of a plant bed preparation, making sure that you know where you want your design to go, and that will help you decide what plants you will put there to have the best impact to attract pollinators, but also will have the best chance of survival after you make this investment.
Well, you know, someone else had a question about they had a lot of weeds in their yards, and I pull weeds out because I don't want weeds or trees growing into my garden or in my bed. But mulch, if I'm wrong, please correct me. Mulch, wouldn't that retain the weeds to keep them from growing fast and out of control, or is there something natural? I went on Pinterest and got natural remedies to try to weed out a lot of things, and it worked. But I think mulch might be the better of the two.
Better than what?
Mulch, better than things that they have on Pinterest, like Epsom salt and all those other crazy kind of.
Don't put salt on your plants.
Well, no, I'm saying, no, if you go on Pinterest, I've seen that and I'm like, what?
Salt, I think salt, vinegar, I think those things kill weeds, but you don't want that in your garden.
No, you don't put it in garden. That's why
cracks of the driveway, maybe. Yeah. But the mulch, you're right, Alois, you're absolutely right about mulch. So after we plant plant your flowers in the compost soil mixture, compost sharp sand mixture. Then once they're planted, that's when we put, you remember, we put the mulch around it, right. On the ground after the planting and on the berm afterwards. And mulch is good because mulch it holds moisture and it also will keep the weed growth down. So, but I just want to say this, please use healthy, fresh mulch. Because I worked with some wood chips, which are fine as mulch, but it was old and had gotten moldy and mildewy. And that's why I have this cough. I had a very severe respiratory reaction last weekend before last. I mean, severe, like couldn't breathe. So make sure it's healthy stuff. And somebody, yeah, cardboard and newspaper, and then the mulch on top of it is perfect. Yep, agree.
Gigi, do you have any more weeding tips to share?
Yeah. So I would, with weeding is a little funny sometimes because sometimes there are natural plants that are in an early state where you don't actually know what they are just yet. So I would say my first suggestion with weeding is to take your time because you don't want to pull out something that actually is beneficial to your garden. Weeding is probably best to do hands-on, as Ms. Lois and Ms. Irma said. You don't want to use too many chemicals in your plant bed because that can negatively impact the soil for the native plants that you do want to grow there. So moving slowly is a good idea. Oftentimes with the plant bed preparation, what some people do, they do the cardboard or the plastic on top of an area to really make sure that they kill what's under there. And that just means that they stop the exposure of sunlight and of moisture, which are the things that feed plants. So just making sure that the weeds don't get that food. And I would also agree that mulch is a good kind of intermediate. Mulch keeps the moisture for the plants that you want. And I think it also makes the weeds grow a little bit slower, but I think it also helps to kind of clearly identify what the weeds are. You'll be able to clearly see what they look like when they're poking out, especially after you've planted the plants that you want. So then you'll start to notice which ones are actually not the ones that you want there. So someone has asked a question about when to mulch. So we are currently in planting season right now. And given how warm it is, we might be able to continue into early October. But planting season is typically between mid-August and mid-October. And then there's a spring planting season of mid-March to mid-May. So mulch is honestly good anytime, but as Ms. Irma said, make sure that it's clean mulch. Make sure that it's maybe try to stay away from some of the colored artificial mulches because some of those chemicals get into the soil as well. So think about, clean wood chips or some of the different kind of grains of fibers to use, especially for our native plant beds. So now is a good time to do it if you have the time, but there are other moments in time when you can do that as well. So there's no rush. And watering.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's funny because I have a project where I just tried to negotiate some watering contracts. When you plant your plants, I think it's a good idea to try to water at least once every day for the first 30 days, especially if you're going to plant within planting season, and especially if you do it before winter. What that does for native plants, it kind of helps them get acclimated. They start to feel really comfortable in the soil. There's enough water for them to drink, but also to store. Especially if you have mulch, you're helping to keep all that moisture below the surface, that when it starts to get colder, plants have a little bit more energy underneath before they go dormant for the winter time. But I think some tips that I've even gotten in school is you don't necessarily have to water too often, but when you do, take your time and water long. So really make sure that everybody gets what they need. But I'll also toss it back to my garden experts here.
Anything else to add with watering, Irma? Irma, if you could share information about like redirecting your water spout into your native plant garden.
Yeah, so so the gardens I have, the one that has the water coming from the downspout is much more beautiful and healthy than the one that captures it from this parking lot. Partially because the parking lot runoff is not as significant. It's not as significant amount of water. and it's also a parking lot. So it's picking up whatever crap is on the ground, whatever is there, you know, and pulling it into the garden. So I think that when they have a water source, they're much healthier. And that means you don't have to pay for the water that you're putting on it. You're not having to use city water and paying, you know, native plants are significant because they adapt to, they're already adapted to our climate, even though it's changing a bit, but they understand it's dry in the summer and wet in the spring. They get that, it's in their plant DNA. So they're already the kind of plants that that are conducive to this environment, but they do need water. And so when you're capturing it, so to connect your downspout, there's some instructions. You can go and really Google it. You know, how do I disconnect my downspout? And if you live in Detroit, understand that with this drainage fee system, the city is giving every resident a 25% off the top credit on the assumption that your downspouts are disconnected. They're not policing this, but it is a requirement and it's city code. So it really needs to be done, and it helps them in terms of not so much stormwater going that has to be treated, because treated stormwater is expensive to treat the storm and sewage water. So it cuts back on their costs, which is good for us, because if their costs are lower, our water bills are lower. But you're getting a credit for it. So, and there are instructions on DWSD's webpage and in YouTube that shows you the process. Is pretty simple, really. Hacksaw, you cut it about 9 inches, cut it off, attach some hoses and run it into your garden. So it's not real, it's a thing to do, but it's not too complicated. And you can reach out probably to any of the organizations on here, and we can direct you to resources or workshops that are taking place that can help you figure it out. Did I answer that?
Oh yeah, yeah. Sorry, I was on the chat. I wanted to hear from you, Lois, if you could share some of your personal experience with just maintaining a garden. Did it turn out to be more work than you thought it would be, or was it a little bit more low maintenance? What's been your experience taking care of a native plant garden?
My rain garden, I have the water, my spout under my rain garden. So the water that comes down, from the roof, and when it rains, it feeds my rain garden. The first year that I put it in, I paid attention to it because I wanted to make sure. And I think when I did it, we had ample rain, but I wanted to make sure the rain, it had enough rain. But it's really low maintenance. You'd be surprised how low maintenance it is, especially if you get the snow and the rain that's normal or usual. But when the weather is like this, I do have rain barrels in my backyard, and my husband has connected holes to my water hose. And periodically I go out there, and sometimes I feel selfish because I'll water the rain garden first and forget about the grass because it'll come back. But I've been doing exceptionally well, and the rain barrels are wonderful things to have on hand, and it is very low maintenance for a rain garden.
Love my rain barrel. I love it.
Let's see if there's any questions that we weren't able to get to in our conversation. We're approaching the end of the bulk of our lesson. And so before I get into the kind of wrap up spill part of the lecture, I want to make sure that our panelists visit the chat and answer any questions that they see. If there's anything that stuck out to them that they can speak on now, please do. And this is just to make sure that we get to everybody and make sure that everybody's heard, and try to get to as many questions as we can while you have us.
Somebody asked a question about how they could link for getting the city discount And it should be on your bill already. They've given it to us automatically. So if you look at your water bill, it'll have water and the water charges and sewage charges, and then drainage. I think that's how. And you should see something that says drainage credit, and it'll be a minus some certain amount. And that's the 25% credit that we're already given. So they've given it to us again on the assumption. And so we should try. But I do want to say this: you do not need to disconnect your downspout unless it's flowing onto your lawn or some grassy area or your garden. Please don't disconnect it if the water would then flow onto a sidewalk or driveway. I have one like that. Somebody did it, not me. And every winter, I know where that icy patch is, but no one else. So, it's like it's a real hazard. So don't, because it'll thaw and then freeze, and it's not healthy, not good. So as long as you have some place for it to drain to, some green place, grassy place, and yes, please disconnect it.
And we have some questions about recommendations on where to place your rain garden. Like, should you place it around your vegetable garden? How far away should it be from your house? If you all could tackle that.
10 feet. If you have a basement, it should be 10 feet from your house. 10 feet from wherever that basement is the recommendation, because you don't want, because it's especially if you've got your downspout, right, flowing into it, you're going to have water in there, but you don't want that against the foundation of your home. There's the potential for seepage into your basement. So 10 feet is the rule of thumb.
All right, thank you. And let's see. Tish, you can use burlap as a barrier. You just have to make sure that you watch it closely, because it can start to mold some, so you might have to replace that out once it begins to mold. Let's see.
There's a question here. It says, do I disconnect if the downspout, if it's running into a hole in the ground? Yep, because that hole in the ground is a storm drain. So when it goes into the storm drain, it's going into the storm system, this combined sewer system. So yes, that is absolutely. And then thank you for asking the question, because once you've disconnected it, you then have to cover that hole. And there's usually a storm drain there, and there's several these home and garden places, Lowe's, Home Depot, they sell a cap you can put over it. You have to measure it, because there's like a 3-inch cap, 4-inch cap. So you do want to cover it so that water's not pouring directly in it, because that's also usually right at your foundation. And then there's a chicken wire cement mixture thing you can do that's a little more, you have to kind of have instructions on how to mix that up, but you can also cover it in that way. Chicken wire with newspaper in it, put the cement over the top. The paper is meant to just make sure no cement is falling into that hole. So, yes.
And let's spend about 2 or 3 more minutes on this, and then I'll get into the wrap up.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to offer, for some people who have some really aggressive invasives, one opportunity to try to get rid of them is plastic bags. That's for those who have like Japanese knotweed, or like some of the spiraling garlic weeds and things like that are in their property. One of the best ways is, once you dig it up, is to kind of incubate those bulbs that come out with that in plastic bags, and kind of leave them in the sun for a little bit. And for those who, for the areas that you dug them up from, to consider layers of plastic that can kind of heat up and burn out some of the seedlings associated with the weeds. I know sometimes, especially with Japanese knotweed, you'll go and you'll get rid of it and it looks great, and then not 2 weeks later it's back even more aggressively. So black like heavy duty garbage bags work really well in kind of getting rid of those. So those who need some help with kind of overgrowth, especially from like our Detroit alleys where the weeds kind of come in into our fences. So that's always a good option.
All right. Thank you all for answering those questions. And I also want to thank the participants within the chat for helping with answering some questions within there as well. On this page here is a link to our resources at keepgrowingdetroit.com, at keepgrowingdetroit.org. More planting instructions, information from Land and Waterworks Stewardship, a step-by-step guide on planting plants, and many more. I've also posted this link within the chat too, so you can find that there. And this is close to the end. I just have one more major thing to share with our participants. So as a thanks to you all for participating in our class, we are going to be giving away the plants needed to start our design gardens. So our park sun garden and our sun garden, those 15 plants needed for each of those will be given out to you all. And so I've linked the link to the Keep Growing Detroit store, and in just a few, I'm going to be sharing our our coupon that you all need to get that discount on those plants. And so important things to note here, this is a first come, first served, and we also want to make sure that we are limiting this to one person per household and also community. And so please make sure that you follow those rules. And let me reveal the code here. And so here is the coupon code. Remember, limit one person / one household. And this is available for residents only of Detroit, Hamtramck, or Highland Park. So please make sure that you fall within those lines. And once you go through and put in your coupon and submit that, your plants will be ready for pickup at the Keep Growing Detroit farm on Tuesday. And the time to show up will be between 5 and 7 p.m. And our address is 1850 Erkin Street. And a lot of activity in the chat. But I'm gonna leave this up for a little bit longer, and I'm also gonna post the code within the chat box for you all. But I want to give a huge thank you to our panelists today for coming through and sharing their knowledge with us all. Thank you, Lois. Thank you, Irma. Thank you, Ujiji. Really appreciate it. And I also want to thank our partners, Wildlife Federation. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Tiffany. And also thank you, Nicole, for being with us. All right, appreciate it. If you all got any lasting words or events that are coming up that you want to share with our participants, now's the time. Irma, I think you had a bike tour, yeah?
We almost had a tour, but it got rained out yesterday. So we're gonna have, this is a green infrastructure tour. It's a self-guided tour, so you can, whichever stops, there are 11 stops. We have some residential rain gardens and bioswales that are just some beautiful plantings, urban forest, an example of disconnected imperviousness, a thing that the department will give credit for. So we don't have a new date, but we're going to share that information with Keep Growing Detroit. We had to postpone it because of the thunderstorms, but we're hoping to do it in the next 2 weeks so that everything's still blooming. And I'll share it with Kalo and Ashley and those folks, and hopefully if you can join us, it would be great.
All right, thank you all. Okay, well, let's wrap this up then. Let me see if I can go to the next slide here. But all right, thank you all for participating. If you all exit out slowly, I'll end the presentation in a little bit, but that is a wrap. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. It was wonderful.
To help out those that are having some issues, I'm gonna go to our store to kind of walk them through the process. So here you'll get the rundown of what it looks like. And here's a description of things that you need to know while you're ordering. So you'll see here that all of our pickups happen between 5 and 7 p.m. on Tuesdays. And our ordering goes live. So like a new order, things that are going to be available for you all to purchase through our store will be updated every Thursday at 9 a.m. And so when you go through and place your orders, you want to make sure that you do so before Sunday at 9 p.m. That's when things shut down, and then we start our process for getting our orders together. And then your pickup will take place Tuesdays between 5 and 7 p.m. The instructions are listed here. And if you scroll down, you can see some more information. We also have a CSA taking place now. Native plants available, scrolling through. But you want to go here to our shop now part. And here you'll see other native plants that we have available for purchase. If you're looking for the mixed flats, you'll see our partial shade and then our full sun. So I'm going to click this one for example. Let's just add this to our cart. And then going to go through the checkout process. And I've already entered in my code, but you can just click next here. More information on when your plants will be available in detail and who to contact if you have any questions. And then you'll see the prompt for you to put in the code. So just follow the normal processes and you'll see the part where you put in your code, and then you should get your discount applied here. All right. But if there's any other questions about purchasing, I'm gonna end the class at 2:20, and I'm gonna go back for those that missed this. So this discount is just for the plants that are featured in this class. So it's going to be for the mixes, our partial shade mix, and our full sun mix, okay? Just those two. This is only where the discount applies. And so you just go through, put that one inside of your cart, go through the process. You'll see the prompt for you to enter in your code, and then we'll see you Tuesday at 5 o'clock to pick up your plants. All right, thank you very much, everybody that's still with us. Gonna be shutting it down in 1 minute. If you have any last minute questions regarding to purchasing and ordering plants, please let me know. And of course, you're also welcome to purchase other plants in this too. Irma, could you help with this question really quickly? We got one question from Amanda about recommendations on getting help with planting.
Actually, I was going to respond. So
Yeah.
the Rain Gardens to the Rescue program, we just suggest people ask their friends and family and neighbors. You know, you can find neighbors who are interested and then say to them that, you know, once yours grows, you'll be happy to share some clippings or whatever from your garden with them. There's really no professional team that I know of. You know, we are working on workforce development aspects of native plants and rain gardens to try to, you know, train people so that, you know, you can hire someone who knows what they're doing to come and do this. But yeah, it's just, you know, getting out there. And I'll tell you what you can do. I can suggest is if you want to, we have some plantings, keep growing, Friends of the Rouge and Sierra Club have plantings in September that are at nonprofits. September 10th, 12th, and 19th. You would be welcome to come and help with those plantings where you can see how it's done. And I can share that information. How, Kayla, how should I share that? You know what? I can tell you, Friends of the Rouge website.
Here, let me see if I can find that and post that in the chat really quickly.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she's got it posted. This is through Land and Water Works Coalition.
Okay.
Which is Detroit Future Cities and Sierra Club and Friends of the Rouge, Detroit Rain Gardens, workshops and plantings. Yep, see.
Great. I would also offer that people consider volunteering with Keep Growing Detroit as a way to learn. And you'll also be adding to the stock of native plants that would be available that you and your friends and families can then bring home, you know, when they become available. Keep Growing Detroit has a lot of programming related to this. And so for those who are kind of unsure how green their thumbs are, I think, as Ms. Irma put it, it's really great to start to volunteer with some groups that are already doing it. So Friends of the Rouge, Keep Growing Detroit, and you know, Greening of Detroit, other organizations that are doing this and making a path in this space will be a great place to start. And then you can bring your green thumb home and share it with the family.
Amanda's looking for someone to pay. So I hear you. I hear you. But I'll tell you, like when we did with the Lois, is part of these programs, and we did it with a group of, what did you have? Maybe 6 or 7 people there helping the Lois. It took us 3 hours start to finish. 3 hours it went like this. We call them rain garden planting parties.
Yeah, that was my birthday too. It was on my birthday. We had a good time.
We had a great time, and she had really good food. So when we finished, we were rewarded with a nice meal. I mean, so, but we're working on it, right? We're trying to build the workforce. We are working on it.
I want to organize their community too. You know, because I'm a big proponent of organizing your community, especially if we have all this extra time on our hands. That would be a good organizing tool to get the groups together and beautify your streets, your block, your alleys, your neighborhoods.
Oh, that's what you could do, Amanda. You can, like, you know, get these plants and I don't know if she's still on the call, but you know, find a spot, not your home, and have some volunteers do it. And, you know, as the example, you know, the trial run. And then once you feel confident with that, then plant at your home. I don't know.
All right. Thank you all. So I am going to close this down. Participants, please remember this this coupon is a first come, first serve. So please do what you can to get your order in and be there Tuesday to pick it up. Remember to follow within the guidelines. outlined, living within Detroit, Hamtramck or Highland Park, and making sure that it's just one plant per household. But again, yeah, thank you to the participants and our panelists. Really appreciate it. And I'm gonna end our Zoom.
Wait, let me put this link in here, Kalo. Did you put in Friends of the Rouge link?
I did not, you
sent-
can do that.
I don't, is it the rouge.org? I think it's the rouge, friends,
I got you.
Friends of the Rouge, but I think it's the rouge.org. Yeah.
You got it in there?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right. All right, with that, I'm gonna end our Zoom call. Really appreciate you all coming out today. Thank you.
Thank you. It was fun. Uh-oh.